In our global world, we are at a great disadvantage if we don't have more of a global focus in our education system.
Hi, I'm Scott and this is Sidra, and we discuss topics in education regarding homeschooling, alternative schooling, and a whole range of other things like that.
So when we were newly married, we moved to Asia. And I don't know about you, Scott, but I was amazed at how little I actually knew about Asian culture, Asian history, Asian literature, everything that was so important to the country that I was now living in. And I just kind of felt like kind of a dumb American a lot actually. I felt frustrated, and I felt sometimes I was offensive. I know I was offensive because I just didn't understand the culture. I didn't understand their history. I didn't understand what was important to them. I didn't understand their politics. I didn't understand anything about the country really that I had that we were living in. And when we came back to the States, that was one of the things I started noticing, where I really was always thinking about how can my child have a greater understanding of the world around them. In America, most of our education is a very Eurocentric education.
Yeah, I remember feeling that kind of feeling of disorientation when we were in Taiwan. Did you mention we were in Taiwan?
Just Asia, but yeah.
Asia, we were in Taiwan. And I remember feeling a little out of touch. I remember feeling like I wanted to appreciate so much about their culture, and there was so much to learn. And I think that without a good understanding of who they were and what their history was and what and what they liked and what they didn't like, I think we were at a disadvantage. So we ended up starting a private school a few years later. And one of the things that we knew we wanted to do was to structure the entire school around the world, not around just one place or one history, but around the entire world. So instead of basing it in history or basing it in something, one other thing, we decided this is a private school. It's going to be a world school. We're going to try to talk about all things around the world. We decided to create a geography-based school. I don't know, what were some of the things that you learned from doing it that way?
Yeah, so as you know, we developed a curriculum, and it is geography-based. It is also project-based. It's a very hands-on curriculum, and as we have developed that curriculum, it was amazing to see these kids grow in empathy and understanding of the world around them. A lot of people have a thought that if we study other countries and other cultures, that we're somehow neglecting ours, and that somehow we won't be very American if we do that, or we'll somehow lose ourselves in the process. And we found that to be opposite, actually, of the case. And as I have studied, other schools have taken this approach, this same thing. They've found it actually opposite. They found more citizenship, more appreciation, more appreciation, not just for the world around them, but also for their own country. And that was one of our focuses as well. Is one of the benefits of this is in studying these countries, we could also talk about what does that mean for us, and what does that mean for your world and stuff. And obviously when the kids are young, it looks differently than as they get older. As they get older, it starts to look like, okay, what are the real problems in this world, and how does that affect us, how can we solve these problems, these big problems, and what does that look like for you in your life, and how does that affect you? And but for younger kids,
go
ahead.
So currently it's 2022. Back 2 or 3 years ago, we actually studied Russia, and we dove very deeply, as we always do, into all topics surrounding Russia. And the kids gained a really, as they always do, a really great appreciation for Russia. And so, fast forward a couple of years, with Russia and the conflagration in the Ukraine, it's now kind of these kids have these tools to go back to. Russia's not this horrible enemy, crazy, thing.
Like a caricature.
Like some caricature of it. It's actually a place, and they know about it, and they know about what they what their history is, and what they care about, and who they are. We had Russians come in a lot to talk to the kids, and so there's so much more. They're so much more able to confront the issues and the problems of our current world, because we studied that a few years ago. And I think that's what it does. Every single time we study a different place, it's not just studying that place, it's making their art, and it's singing their songs, and it's
making their costumes.
We
made traditional Russian costumes. Some of the kids did. They learned how to pickle. So the littles learned how to pickle cucumbers, because pickling is huge in Russia. And they learned the folk dancing, folk songs, and they also learned what was going on with them during World War II, like what was their experience of World War II, the Russian experience. And so they really dug in, and it brings this sense of empathy, and even like a little bit even of confidence in being able to understand the world around them, and being able to understand the world around you really just does bring confidence.
Sure. I think they understand it at a much deeper level, not only the positive sides that come from all cultures, but also some of the things that you can see led to the issues that are between Russia and the Ukraine.
So other schools that have integrated more of a global focus into their education system, they've noticed, and there's been research done that shows that these students are at a greater advantage as they get older and as they start to look also for jobs. It's almost impossible to not have the world influence your work. Even an accountant is influenced by the world economy. And your work that you're currently doing, it's a small business, but you still source parts, materials from foreign countries.
Yeah, I'm talking with people in China and Indonesia.
Yes. And being able to understand just basic politeness and a basic part of their culture, and have an appreciation for them on some level, really gives you an advantage in the workplace as you become an adult. One of the benefits, and one of the things we've seen with the geography-based curriculum, is that it's so fun. And there's just so much you could integrate into the learning, that there's something interesting for every child, something that they grab onto. They're really like, oh, I love that. For some students, like giving Russia again as an example, it might be like, oh, World War II, I'm so fascinated about World War II, and they might deep dive into Russia and World War II and just their part, and they might just dive deeper and go down that rabbit hole of World War II. There's, you can study the literature, the culture, the food, the clothing, their folk history, like their folk tales, their current literature, their innovators, like they're just, the list goes on and on. Their geography, like where are they, what animals, like if you're talking about littles, they love to talk about the animals and the plants that grow there, what's different and unique about that region, what is the weather like, what does the food taste like, what does the music sound like. There's just so much for all ages, and we found for all ages it's such a great way to it's a great thing for like a family-based curriculum, because there is something for all ages, there's something for all skill levels, and there's something that usually piques the interest of all kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when we're trying to do education, we're always trying to pique the interest of children. We're always talking about curiosity and building their curiosity, and it's a perfect scenario for children to become curious about something, because it's so much unknown, but it's similar enough. It's similar enough that they will be interested because it's like but unlike, and so they're always so curious about what cultures are doing differently than their home culture.
Yeah, and like we said, the older kids might start digging more deeply into because their world is bigger, like they can see, oh, this country, this region, what's going on in Australia affects me. Like, so what is a problem I can solve? What is something I see that's going on that I can dig deeper into? And so it really is something that works for all ages, and just a fun, but like such a fun way to study, because there's mathematics, there's science in every region that you can just really dig into. And so all subjects, integrated subjects, are found in studying.
And so, and I would add to this also that we've been talking mostly about geopolitical things, when geography is actually just more than that, right? Where it sometimes doesn't include any culture or politics whatsoever. So you're studying Antarctica, and while there are political issues that regard Antarctica, it really lends itself to talking about the whole world instead of just history or just our cultural relationship with other countries. It really can be a place, and what is that place, what's in that place, and what matters about that place. And you could have an entire section, an entire months and months talking just about, like I said, Antarctica, which has few people that live there, and all of the issues that arise from global warming or talking
so
about
much science.
The science and talking about weather patterns.
Well, and the history,
so
who explored there, what was the explorers' experience, how could they survive, what did they have to wear to live in such a climate? I mean, you can just start going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, and it gives a framework or a context that really could sometimes seem endless. We usually only study for 6 to 8 weeks, but like,
but
there's just it could be endless. You could study it again 5 years later, and it can be a completely different experience the next time you study it.
And we do. We recycle these places over and over again, and it's completely different. I would also add to this, to add a little bit more fun to it, is that a place doesn't have to be the world. We studied space once. That was one of our geographies, was space. And that could be, that alone is just endlessly fun. There's so many things. We built, during our space quarter, we built a solar system, a life-size
solar system.
We built a huge solar system inside of... To scale. In size, not in distance. And hung it up inside of the school, and it was just so fun. We had this, how big was... I think our Earth was like 3 inches big, and so Jupiter was like 4 feet wide.
It was like an exercise ball.
An exercise yoga ball or something like that. It was really fun.
Yeah, another is that we didn't leave the U.S. out for sure. We often added in, a time period within U.S. history. So we always had those unit studies as well. We didn't leave the U.S. out of it.
We'd always kind of go around. We'd studied the American West once, and we studied the Revolutionary War, geography and time, and because sometimes it's fun to combine the time with the geography.
So we also do ancient civilizations too, like we did ancient Egypt, which also we would talk about not only ancient Egypt, but what does that look like now? Why do we know so much about ancient Egypt? And so we would sometimes hone in on a certain time period, but it was a fun way to study, and it did give more of a global focus to our kids so that they had more empathy, more of an awareness of the world around them, more appreciation for other cultures, other people, because that's actually our world. That's even our world within the United States. We have some, it was very easy for us to always find people from other countries just within our area to come speak at our school, because our country is full of people from all over the world, right? And cultures from all over the world. So it was a great way to study. We would love to hear any of your questions that you have for us about how you could integrate a global education into your homeschool or into your education program. There's lots of links below of our own curriculum as well. So go ahead and comment below, like this video, and we will see you next time.
See you guys later.